right, y'all. It is cold, it is windy. I realized I ran out of coffee, but we are out here, and that's what counts. On the menu today, one of my favorite workouts, SSR splits, basically paces just outside your comfort zone. Kind of customized my own workout today, sneaking over here to grab my water bottle that I hide in the sand dunes. But it's basically gonna be 20-minute repeats of SSR pace or steady state pace just outside the comfort zone with 5 minutes rest in between. So two 20-minute splits of that SSR, 5 minutes rest after each, hoping to hit right around 6 miles. Just finished the warm-up. I'm looking forward to a solid workout, so let's get this thing started. "20 minutes down from my total mileage. I'm gonna assume that if we subtract the warm-up, we're looking at like 2 1/3 miles for that one, so not too bad. It's crazy just how much I'm struggling with heart rate training, just in terms of like my heart rate's so much higher than it used to be. I mean, this is all part of the work, so I'm concentrating most of my runs on just really slow heart rate work to just increase or improve that heart rate adaptation. But all that being said, I think it's just about time to jump into the next one. Two laps done. We are in the final recovery stage, 5 minutes of just recovery walking. Goal for today was to try to hit like around 6 miles for the run. I think I'm gonna hit that almost exactly with the warm-up, 2 20 minutes at SSR pace, 2 5-minute rest intervals. I think that's gonna put me right around 6 miles. Still quite dark outside. Run started at 5 o'clock this morning, so now it is time to begin the now normal ritual of rushing around inside to try to get ready before I have to run, catch the subway to work. But solid run, happy I got up, got it done. Gotta find somewhere on the way to work to get coffee. Cheers, y'all, how's it going? I wanted to make a very quick video just going over kind of a broad overview of what my training program looks like for this 15-week training block leading up to the Rocky Raccoon 100-mile race. Obviously, 15 weeks to 100 miles is a pretty ambitious goal, so just trying to kind of get back to basics, really just drill down on overall fitness goals or fitness gains, endurance gains throughout this training block, just doing everything I can over the next 15 weeks to make sure I am as healthy as I can be at the starting line. And I want to emphasize that health piece. What thought went into making this training program is, how can I increase my mileage, my endurance as quickly as possible with as little risk as possible to any kind of like injury or anything like that? Obviously, that's the biggest concern when you're ramping up training pretty significantly, pretty quickly. You want to make sure you are doing it in a smart and safe manner so that you don't risk any kind of overuse injuries. And knock on wood, so far everything has been going great. I am 4 weeks in at this point and have seen 4 weeks of steady increases in weekly mileage. My legs are feeling good, tired for sure, especially sore after those weekend long runs. Again, just getting used to that mileage again. But so far, again, knock on wood, everything is feeling good and going really, really well. So I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what my training, what those increases look like over the next several weeks, 11 weeks now until that Rocky Raccoon 100 miler. So you have an idea of what I'll be putting myself through in case you ever want to attempt something like this in the future. Sort of the caveat I also want to give for this video is putting this plan together for myself comes from extensive experience and knowledge on how my body responds to different types of trainings. I know for myself personally, I'm relatively prone to overuse injuries when I try to increase my mileage too quickly, especially in the IT bands. So something I want to be really, really careful of, both in how gradually I increase my mileage to try to limit the risk of any kind of IT band issue, but also making sure I'm taking some of those preventative measures like strength work, flexibility, rehab routines, etc. But that being said, let's take a quick look of what the 15-week training plan looks like. Again, 15 weeks, 200-mile race. Basically what I did here, made sort of a personalized, modified marathon training plan. You'll see the longest run I'm gonna do is only 20 miles. And again, I chose that because I think that is the safest distance, or the longest distance that I can safely increase to, and still hopefully arrive at the starting line in as best shape as possible. So just to explain sort of how I put this plan together, you start with your increasing your long run. You look at what your comfortable long run is at the starting point. Went through and just kind of mapped out, okay, if I was gonna increase my long runs, the goal is to hit that 20-mile long run. How can I do that safely? And this is what I came up with. So you can see we're headed into the 5th week of training. That's gonna be starting this week. I also then took the long runs and broke down weekly runs with the idea of making a similar increase, like only increasing that weekly mileage by a couple of miles each week. Again, wanting to make sure that I'm not increasing that too quickly and risking overuse injuries, wanting to give my legs plenty of time to get used to that increased mileage over time. One caveat I will say here is that in designing this, I designed it with a 4-day running week. Typically, that's gonna be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, or sometimes it'll be like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So I have 4 running days throughout the week. Depending on how my legs respond to training, as we get further into this training plan, closer to the race, I may add a 5th day in as well. I'll try to probably flex those mileage numbers throughout the week because I don't want to just add a 5th run that's just going to jump mileage up. So I might lower one of the other runs throughout the week. Again, totally adaptable, totally flexible based on my running, how I'm feeling in the moment. But I like the idea of adding a 5th race purely for the point of just continuing to run on fatigued legs and helping my muscles get used to that increased fatigue that they're gonna need to be able to push through the mileage and that distance during the 100-mile race. So likely gonna add a 5th day somewhere in there. I also really like for ultramarathon training to do a Saturday long run and then a run on Sunday. Again, just getting in a run on tired legs to kind of get used to that. So considering working in some additional runs like that. But this is just sort of the base model. A lot of these are just slow, steady, low heart rate runs. I am just prioritizing time on feet. That is really the goal here. Not worried about speed, not worried about paces, just worried about increasing mileage and getting to the starting line of Rocky Raccoon in as best shape as I can in a safe manner. And I just want to keep emphasizing that because that's really kind of the key that I'm focusing on. I think a lot of folks will look at these numbers and just be like, this is not enough mileage to take on a 100-miler, but this is the mileage that I can feasibly accomplish in the time that I have. The other piece that I'm really trying to focus on, at least from my perspective, the last couple, the only 200-milers that I've attempted, the last one specifically, I basically ran it after a marathon training block. So I never ran longer than, I did run a marathon. I had a goal marathon in the spring, was my longest run, so 26.2 miles on road, but very little trail running at all. It was mostly road training for that race. And I felt really good through 67 miles of that race. And so my goal, again, is to just get my legs as healthy as they can be, because I think if I can build up the muscle endurance, that's part A, but more importantly, I think what we need to work on for this race is the mental piece. So the physical training, I'm just doing what I can to, again, get my legs prepared to tackle that challenge. But I think my real focus over the next several weeks getting ready for this race is on the mental aspect, making sure that the nutrition, the hydration is dialed in, make sure that we're mentally prepared to take on this race, focus in on what is the game plan when things go wrong, so that we can hopefully push through those. And I think that's going to be a lot of conversations with our crew. If we're going through tough spots, if either Todd or I is going through a tough spot, how do we want to handle that together? How do we want to handle that separately? How do we want our crews to frame those conversations when we're kind of just mentally fatigued and having a hard time navigating that? I think we just need to do some better pre-planning so that we are more prepared to encounter and tackle those issues as they arrive, knowing that they likely will arrive at some point. So this is the training plan. This is what I'm doing over the next now 11 weeks leading up to Rocky Raccoon. It is certainly nerve-wracking for sure. 100 miles is a long way, but I feel much more confident after the experience at this past Mohican with how well everything fell into place for me during that race, how well training had gone, how well nutrition had gone, and knowing that going into Rocky Raccoon, it's going to be a cooler race. So the heat, hopefully, knocking on wood constantly throughout this video, but hopefully the heat won't be too much of a factor. Terrain-wise, the elevation gain is much less, so easier on the legs as well. The roots are certainly a concern for me specifically, but yeah, I just think if we can prepare properly, I think we have a really good shot at this one. I'm getting very excited. I think I'm going into this like wanting it a lot more, mostly because I want to be able to do it and then be able to say, okay, we're done with 100 miles and not feel like we have to go back. But getting very excited, still a lot of work to be done, but this is going to be the focus over the next several weeks. The last thing that I'll touch on is outside of mileage, since obviously mileage I'm not going to be doing as much as I think a lot of folks would to prepare for this race. The other focus for me is just going to be on what I mentioned before, kind of that rehab work, the strength work, and the flexibility to make sure, I think especially the strength work, if I can improve those core muscles, those leg muscles, hamstrings, glutes, quads, etc., I think that will help with fatigue later in the race. So although maybe I won't get as much endurance training out of the mileage that I'm doing, hoping that the strength training can carry some of that load as well to kind of push off fatigue as long as possible during the race. Again, fully knowing that at some point things are going to go off the rails during this race and we just have to be prepared to handle that. But the goal is to just do as much as we can now in the weeks leading up to the race to hopefully make navigating those issues a little bit easier on race day. But very, very excited for the race. Very excited just to be running again. I'm really pumped that in a couple weeks I'll hit a 30-mile week. It's been forever, and I usually like 30 to 40 miles per week has been like my sweet spot when I'm really in the zone and just feeling very good, not overly fatigued during the runs. That's just usually where I feel like I'm just kind of getting into that zone during running, and very, very excited to kind of hit that flow state as I'm starting to ease into or starting to feel a little bit more comfortable out on these runs. So excited for those numbers, excited to just see this weekly mileage continue to climb, and excited to have you all along for the journey. So please, there are people who watch these videos who have much more experience with ultra marathons than I do. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything you think I need to be adding in, things that maybe I'm not thinking about, because I know this truly is going to be a team effort to get Todd and I across that finish line. But thank you all, as always, for joining in. Looking forward to posting plenty more updates as training goes along, and looking forward to hopefully seeing some of you folks out there at Rocky Raccoon. But that's it for today for this video. I thank you as always for tuning in, and I'll see you around. Cheers.